Hello and welcome. So, my name is Robert. We're going to be creating a series here on YouTube for a guide/tutorial on getting started with Atavism Core. This will be based on X6. We're going to be making an entire project from start to finish. Well, it may not get to be an entire project, but it will be basically a playable version. It will have a whole new system of complexities put into it, including changes and revisions to the Aegis system itself. We'll be using an advanced skilling system, combat system, crafting system, and everything else. So many of the systems inside of Atavism we will be changing. We will be doing a lot of client-side edits as well as server-side edits. We'll be changing a lot of the how-tos on a lot of the systems and just kind of going from there and seeing what we can get going. This system is intended to be a actual system based on a project we're currently working on called Project Colo, also referred to as World of Colo. We have a Discord for it. We have pictures and everything else on it. Some of the stuff with Colo is going very well, and we've basically decided to sort of give it a fresh reboot, so to speak. We're changing some of the systems, for example, from a built-in render pipeline into HDRP. We're changing all the animations and everything else. And since a lot of it turned into, we're just going to take what we've got and start a new project out of it, we kind of figured what we were going to do is kind of make this little tutorial series and guide you through as we actually do things, developing an actual MMO. This is not our first MMO. We've worked on several MMO systems for not so much ourselves, but for other companies. And so we do have some experience in the fields, and we're kind of just wanting to really show how to do a lot of the stuff, because I see a lot of people with Atavism especially get kind of lost and confused when you switch from the demo version into an actual core version where you don't have all the animations and coordinated effects, and you're basically starting completely from scratch. And I see a lot of how do we edit the UIs, and I changed this in the UI and now nothing works. And so we're kind of looking at, there's a lot of how to do things that people want to see, and so we're kind of just whipping things together on a little tutorial series on Atavism itself mostly. I'm not really coming in with this expecting a lot of knowledge on your part. I'm not expecting you to be a master programmer or a master scripter or a master with Atavism or with Unity. And so some of the stuff may not be very well suited for some of the more advanced users who already know how to do things. It may seem pretty redundant and repetitive, but I really want to get an understanding of why we do certain things, how certain things work, how they interact with different systems. So it's much easier for you to take off and do your own project and have a better understanding of how things work, rather than just a, here's how we do it, now deal with it and figure it out yourself. One of the biggest things I've seen is there's a lot of Atavism, I would say guides, tutorials, but they're more hack and slash. This is how to cheat the code to make it do different things, rather than how to actually make a system do what they're trying to do. And I've seen almost no tutorials or guides working with the Aegis system itself for customizing the way that the server works, doing the database edits, the changes of the plugins, making your own plugins, getting clients to use those systems, or generally just how to change the way that Atavism functions, rather than just, well, we can cheat and use these components to mimic what we're trying to do. One example is I've seen a guide on taming with Atavism, and they basically just turned it into a resource node. That's not exactly how taming works. And so, yeah, it's not really much of a guide or tutorial when you're just sort of not fixing the problem, but you're just cheesing your way through it. And that's really why we wanted to make up this guide/tutorial series, is how to actually implement the changes into the Atavism system. Now, as of the time of the beginning of this series, Atavism is on version X7. We're going to be using X6 mostly because I don't have the reserve funds at the moment to do an upgrade, and most of the systems will be the exact same for the setup and how things work. Some of the differences will be, for example, the X6 to X7. X7 adds in AI behaviors and a new agent system for managing multiple servers, and so we're kind of just not focusing on that with this, but most of what we show will still work in all the versions. And always be sure to check out the server API and the client-side API on the Atavism's website under the wiki page, and you can see all the functions and everything and how they work with the different versions that you're using in case there are any changes, but much of the stuff is going to stay the same. So what exactly are we going to put in this tutorial? This is going to be a start all the way through an implementation, getting a live server up and running. We're going to be starting with a core install on a local server. We're going to be using the UMA system for our character creations as well as our NPCs. We're going to have 3 races with the UMA system. We're going to be changing the UI over to handle these things and the character customizations with them. We'll be utilizing the UMA2 free asset on the Unity Asset Store, as well as some other assets with it. Our armor sets are going to come from it, and we're just going to be using the UMA part mostly as a how to implement it into Unity itself, getting the custom races, everything with the newer versions, and showing some of the stuff with that. As we get through that system, we're going to be working into the actual character creation code inside of Aegis. We're going to be using an advanced skilling system. This is where things are going to start to get a lot different from Atavism itself. The basic way that Atavism works by default is it has what I refer to as a flat leveling system. What this means is that if, for example, I'm doing a resource gathering of, say, a bush, and I have that bush associated with a skill of herbology, every time I gather a bush, that's the only thing that will be affected. It doesn't affect any of my other skills, stats, or otherwise. It also doesn't really give you much control over changing things, because what you define when you set up those skills is what you get for all eternity. So if I make a bush with, for example, a skill of herbology and it has a success rate of 50%, if your player's level 1 or level 100,000, you still have a 50% chance. There's no real point to the leveling system other than unlocking new resources that you might be able to gather down the line, but it doesn't change your stats, the types of things you'll get, the chances of success, and so on and so forth. They're not affected, and so it's a flat system. With our advanced system, is going to be more focused on a jobs-based profession, which means all of the skill sets will have a sort of layout for how they interact with different systems. As an example, for a real life, if you were a blacksmith and you made weapons, if you're making weapons and you decide down the line that you want to get into making armor, some of the things that you used while making the weapon systems would still help you be better off at making armor. For example, you'll still be using the hammer, the forge, tempering, understanding metallurgy, and all that sort of stuff. It's a more advanced skilling system. If you change jobs, you don't always start from zero. And with that type of a system, that's what we're going to be implementing here, is using a factoring or weight system where each profession is based on several other skills, and then those skills affect other jobs and professions as you go. Our items, tools, weapons, skilling system, gathering, crafting, combat, everything is going to be focused on our new leveling system, and it's not going to be an actual level system. What this means is you will not have a character level from 1 to 1000 or a skill level 1 to 1000, but instead all base live values. So as you are in, for example, an extended combat, you can actually see your skills improving while you're in combat, rather than I only get the bonuses when I actually level up. This means that instead of leveling a system with, say, 1,000 experience points, the experience will actually get added to the stats itself rather than towards an eventual level up, hopefully. So the idea is to make a more complex leveling system where everything is more of a live stat based, everything is more of a skill based professional system, and things are more interacted with those systems. The combat, for example, utilizing different types of weapons will be based on your skills on the professional level with those types of things based on what it is you're doing. The better you are at things, the more effective you get with them, the less durability you'll use up. But when you're first starting off with something, for example, you don't know how to swing the sword, you're not very skilled, you're not going to do that much damage with it, even though you can use it, and you're going to probably cause more damage on the durability than you'll be actually inflicting of damage on the enemy, but would improve as you go along. As you would go along, it'll have a learning curve where these systems will change the way that the experience is handled based on your leveling system. So it's going to be a very complex system, and we're going to be using it with a lot of our stuff. So altogether, I think that this should be a pretty in-depth tutorial on a complete start to finish. In the end, we're actually going to be taking this live. We will be putting up a VPS server, setting it up from scratch, showing how to do the configurations, and all the fun bells and whistles and stuff with it to actually get a server online out there, how to do the securities, how to set up the databases, and everything else. So as the series progresses through, be sure to leave any likes, comments, and let us know the types of things that you'd like us to add that wasn't covered in this video that we're going to be trying to put in there, and just let us know the types of things that you want us to show how to do, and we will try to fit them in with our stuff with it. I can't come up with an actual schedule because I've got like 200 jobs trying to keep up with the bills, and so yeah, it's kind of time consuming. But this is going to be based on an actual game that we are working on called Project Colo / World of Colo, depending on the stage that you're looking at it from. And hopefully you'll be able to get a very good understanding of the Atavism system from core, and we can make a pretty good system. So have a great day and let us know.